What you're seeing right now are shot on the new Weebill 3E. I'm shooting this while I'm walking the dog so I can show you exactly what this gimbal is capable of while I'm shooting this. Alright, so with a click of a button, we're in selfie mode. Now, this is not exactly a completely new gimbal. It is a Weebill 3, but with a couple of functions removed from the Weebill 3S. So I won't be going through a complete specs. Oh God. I'm sorry, he's doing a poop. Let me put it down. This review is gonna be as real, as unbiased, unsponsored, like all my reviews. In fact, it's so real, you're gonna see everything that I do while I walk my dog. Let's go. By the way, I'm shooting everything with one hand because this gimbal is actually pretty light. Second, it's got Bluetooth functions. So paired with my Sony S3, I'm able to record and stop recording with just one hand, while my other hand is actually walking the dog. Pretty cool. So as I was saying, I'm not going to give you a complete overview of the specs because I've done a complete review of the Weebill 3S. Now if you want to see the complete specs, go check out my other review of the Weebill 3S. It's very comprehensive, very unbiased, the good, the bad and the ugly. But rather today I want to share with you more of the features that it's included in the 3E, but also some of the functions that's been removed from the 3S, as well as live shooting of how it actually performs. 给你们看一下。它不会咬人的，它很可爱的。你要抱抱它。我给你摸摸它吧。Now, as I was saying, a couple of features have been removed, but a couple of advantages have been improved on this gimbal. And that's expected because the price is now a lot cheaper than what it was previously. Now, I don't know what it is in the States, but here locally in China, it's around 1,000 RMB. And given the low price, Zhiyun has positioned this gimbal into their Cine Peer lineup, which is a new subdivision under the Zhiyun brand, which is catered for filmmakers like you and me. And at the same time, they've kept the most essential needs of a gimbal. A couple of things that's missing from this versus the previous model. First is the LED lights. There's no longer a built-in LED, which was on the Weebill 3S. Now, to be honest, I didn't use the LED light as much because I felt it was insufficient at night and it gave a relatively harsh light. So I much rather have a cheaper gimbal than having a LED light, which they've removed, and they've listened to their customers, and I praised Zhiyun for doing that. The second thing, on the previous model, there was a wrist support. Now, if you saw my previous review, you can see it is actually very handy. Now, they've removed this because they want to cut the price down. But you can still use the previous version on this gimbal. If you do have a fairly heavy setup like mine, Sony S7 III plus with the 24-70 GM master lens, well, that's around 1.5 kilos. Over time, that's going to put a strain on your wrist. So having a wrist support really does help and offload the weight. So something worth considering. You don't have to have it, but it definitely helps. Now, apart from the color change, it still retains the ability to quickly swap your gimbal from vertical shooting to horizontal or vice versa. All you have to do is quickly switch the plates around and it's a very quick function. It doesn't require you to rebalance your gimbal because the gimbal actually is quite sufficient. In fact, this time I'm not even fully balanced and I'm using a cage over my camera and it was able to support the complete setup. One other benefit of the quick plate is something I always wanted on a gimbal, is the ability to swap your batteries and your SD card while it's still mounted. With this setup, you can, and it's actually quite easy to do. So, with all those functions removed and the benefits added, the overall package sounds like a good deal, right? It still has pan follow, lock, foot follow, go mode, POV and vortex, so that's unchanged. It has a joystick at the front where you can change the direction of your gimbal. You also have a dial at the back where this time you can change the tilt, the pitch, the roll, as well as, if it's capable, your ISO, your zoom and camera settings. Well, so far the whole package sounds pretty well. How does it do it in the real world? Let's go find out. I'm using a Sony S3 using the Tamron 1721 wide angle lens with internal zoom, so I don't have to rebalance my gimbal every time I adjust my zoom. It's one of my perfect pairs for my gimbal. Let's go outside, do some rotations, let's do some pan follows and a couple of test shots to show you how well it does. I'm also going to turn off the in-body stabilization in the camera as well, just so if there's any assists, that's been removed. Let's go.
Okay, this is lock mode and we're going forward, walking with the 17 millimeters. Okay, now we're going to do the same while running in lock mode, okay? So here we go. Okay, now I'm going to do a tilt rotation. This usually requires quite a bit of algorithm to balance the gimbal, but let's try. Do you see any shakes? I'm just walking across. Might be a little bit dizzy. That's in pan forward mode, by the way. Let's do a normal rotation of a parallax of a tree, maybe just this one here. I'm just walking sideways, holding it, doing a ninja walk, and wow, looks pretty good. Let's spin the other way. This is IBIS turned off, by the way, and no edit whatsoever. Okay, I'm walking a little bit fast. Wow, I'm really liking this Bluetooth function because giving it one hand, it just makes it so much easier. I'm in POV mode right now, but you've seen a couple of test shots horizontally. Let's do it vertically and do the same test. I'm sweating a little bit. This is why you need the wrist support. Definitely recommend buying the option. All right, let's go try that. So one thing that I found with a setup like this is clearance. Now obviously you can't have everything, you have compact size, then obviously you're limited by clearance. Now this is not necessarily the gimbal's fault because I am using a small rigs cage on my camera. So with the cage, it does add an extra bit of girth. Now shooting the camera horizontally is not a problem. The problem comes once you switch into vertical mode and the bottom plate tends to touch my cage. Now, because the cage does get in the way, you have the limitations in balancing or amount of clearance to get that perfect balance. Now, don't get me wrong, you are still able to shoot with the camera attached to the camera. All the footage that you see in this video are unedited using the cage attached because I want to test the overall payload. But you are not going to get a perfect balance. So it's not a big problem with my setup right now because I'm using a lighter lens. But if you use a heavier lens with the camera, you are not going to get a perfect balance. And sometimes, depending on the mode that you're shooting, for example, vortex mode, where the camera tilts 90 degrees, you are going to put a lot of stress on the gimbal and it's sometimes not going to work. Not a big deal, but something I still want to let you know to be transparent. Now, apart from the minor clearance issues, the overall camera, the gimbal, the balance is very good. There is no stuttering, there is no balancing issues. You don't see the gimbal shake because there's a payload issue. None of that. I think gimbals these days, especially with Zhiyun's gimbals over the years, they've developed such a good algorithm that overall balance is very good, even with the payload that I have on my camera. So what's the final verdict? Should you upgrade or not? Well, like all my reviews, at the end of the day, I strongly recommend to buy at your means. What that means is, if you already have a gimbal, pretty much all gimbals on the market right now these days are very, very good. So there's no need to upgrade a gimbal unless yours is either broken, something is not working properly, or there's a specific feature that you actually need. Wow, that looks really good. Whether that be tracking, whether that be Bluetooth function, whether that be a lightweight gimbal. On the other hand, if you don't have a gimbal, well, do I recommend this one? The short answer is yes. For me, a gimbal has to be lightweight. It has to be able to balance, have enough clearance, at the same time shoot a very stable image. This gimbal does all of that at a fraction of the price. So for me, if I were to buy a first gimbal, I would probably recommend something like this. And if you want 10% discount on Zhiyun products, you can go to the affiliate link down below. I'm not being paid for this. You don't have to use my link. Absolutely don't if you don't need to buy a gimbal. But thank you for staying to the very end. And if you appreciate it, leave a like. I've got more gimbal reviews coming soon, especially for the mobile gimbals, and it's going to be an absolutely cross comparison between all the 2024 mobile gimbals. Hopefully you'll like that. All right, I'm George. We let the tech do the talking on this channel. I'll see you next one.